in the gentleman's for whatever purpose. Why Athlone? Oh, didn't his mother want him home for Christmas and she with a bad leg? I thought it was insulted after breaking the leg. Read your list. I don't think there's any point. It seems to me you are determined to make mockery and scoff of every piddling bloody thing. You have a motion you have put before this committee. We spend everything we've got upon the publication of your book, or we endeavour to space it out upon regular political needs in a reasonable proportion. I did not say my book. I said the newspaper, which is your book. Look at it, there's nothing in it but your book. For God's sake, let's have a vote upon the motion of Comrade Connolly. Those in favour? Aye. Nearly everyone. So what are we going to do? Resign. I propose that this committee should accept the resignation of Comrade Connolly, for with those in favour, it's a majority. Party or no party, I must continue to publish the paper. Why, sure, they'll ask me back. They'll beg me to consider. De Leon in America has told me if I ever went back to New York, I could have a job for the asking on the editorial board. Lily, will you come? Well, I don't want to stay here. What are you laughing at? I was just thinking, how many emigrants have set off for America weeping and all mournful because they are compelled there by their landlords? You must be the first one to be driven out by the socialists, and you're not mournful at all. America, 1903 to 1910. In America, through one final year, I launched myself upon a tour for Eugene Debs, urging support on countless platforms south and north. My wife and children stayed alone in New York City if they groaned, complained that I should be away so much so far. All I can say is that at last from the socialists, I get enough between my fists to keep supplied their daily need. They do not nibble now, they feed. Dublin and the lockout. In 1910 July, he waves his wife and children goodbye, aloft aboard the boat to cross. Meantime, what turbulence must I prepare to meet, when on the Irish side once more I set my heaving feet. One big union, one big strike! Who is it? Who else would it be but Larkin? See, they put him into jail. Connolly in America, through letters, I was led to believe that the socialist movement in Ireland had at last come alive. The prowl and leap of Larkin like a lion, the precise endurance of O'Brien. At last, thank God you're here. I couldn't find you in all the crowd. Did you have a good journey? The harp, what has happened to the harp? There's every newspaper in the country on sale in this place except ours. They told me that Larkin was going to have the management of it. Temporarily suspended, 4 legal actions for libel, no less, impend against it. Jesus, no idea, your man's not an editor. He's a waterfront brawler with a mouth like a machine gun. Larkin, in the jail of Mountjoy, the lion is held at bay. In the jail of Mountjoy, they do not even try to cut the tongue or clip the claw or strap a muzzle round my open jaw. They do not really know, you see, whether or not to be afraid of me. They let me roar and listen for the echo and note it down in constant volume so. Ah, you'll be wanting to know, brother, what the devil I got up to with the newspaper. You'll be wanting to know what the devil I got up to with the Union Finances of Cork. And truth to tell, I can't tell you. I'm in here and I want out one objective. We drive right on, the Transport Workers' Union of Ireland to be built up strong regardless. Belfast is the bugger. Would you go there? The problem is sectarianism. I want an organiser in Belfast who will be known as a pure-blooded socialist with no religious affiliations. Could you pay me? Problems. There always are. Now, if you went to Cork and spread socialism in the streets of Cork, man, they'd drive you out of town with a crosier and a red-hot candlestick. The Orange men are not clever, but they do read the newspapers. If the church should curse you, then you must have cursed the church. For Belfast, no better man. The Socialist Party of Ireland has set up a branch in Cork. If enough people interested, should it be possible to establish one in Queenstown here as well. Did you write a book that the Jesuits murdered the Pope? What about free love? Watch it, William, it's getting author. Gather up the papers, look after the small change. Mr. Connolly, we advise you not to speak here. Come on, boys! Drive them out! Connolly in Belfast. Because the centre of gravity of our industrial population is the loyalist two-thirds of Belfast, William Walker goes to Galway, and by 32 votes to 29 holds the Irish Trade Union Congress to its own entrenched policy that there should be no separate Irish Labour Party established by Irish trade unions only. If I had but the strength to spring from, I could change that 1 year. Yes, here I am in Belfast, kicked about like a coat hanger in search of a hook. I joined a local branch of Larkin's Transport Workers' Union simultaneously with the establishment of a branch of the Socialist Party of Ireland, but 7 members only at my first union meeting. Are we really further forward than when I left for America? The stupidest thing I did was to go to that country, and the next most stupid thing was ever to come home. Out of jail and on the prowl, Larkin comes and Larkin goes. On the prowl and out of jail, loudmouth Larkin bursts with urgent news. A sympathetic strike of the labourers in the English docks to support the striking seamen. We have got to have it here. We must show the British unions that our separatism in Ireland is in no way prejudicial to our class solidarity. Your official organiser for the Transport Workers' Union from now on. Here's 2 weeks in advance. By the way, we have a newspaper. Not the Harp, you can't call it that, but I promise you it will be as defamatory as ever. The Irish Worker, 16,000 I'm having printed this month. You'll write your articles for it, of course. With a circulation of 16,000, I'd write an article for the Book of Kells. William Murphy lays down his gauntlet. On the Friday, Mr. Murphy ordered all those who worked for the Independent to quit the union or the dogs. Such were the terms of his commandment. On the Tuesday, Mr. Murphy ordered that all men in the tramway service who had joined the union to be paid off and leave the depot without disturbance. On the Tuesday, Brother Larkin issued a call for a strike. At 10 in the morning, the trams all stopped, the drivers left them, the conductors went home without forewarning. On every set of rails in Dublin, a silent tramcar stood like a statue. From the windows projected the heads of the passengers, calling and crying in the hope of rescue. On the Wednesday, Larkin organised at the Custom House an enormous meeting. It was not the first. Every night of the strike there were thousands who crowded to hear him speak. I promise you that living or dead they will never break me. And if dead, I will be a greater force against them than alive. My advice to you is if one of our class fall, then 2 of the others must fall for that one. By the living God, if they want war, they can have it. There is no surrender in this fight, no surrender. No cars tomorrow. He's arrested. On the Thursday, Dublin Castle ordered the release on bail of Brother Larkin, bound over in hope of his good behaviour, but his Sunday meeting was forbidden. I take Sackville Street to become a class of a place provided for the use of the King of England whenever he has a mood to put his feet in another man's country. So don't anybody go down Sackville Street. If you do, you might get lifted. On the other hand, there's no objection to any well-disposed person taking a short stroll down O'Connell Street, if only to discover whether there's a meeting being held there or not. Sackville Street very well may belong to the King. O'Connell Street belongs to you. Connolly is arrested. Myself in Mountjoy jail shout out these words to no avail. When they hit on the head, there is nothing need be said. Just to do and to do and to do. All I can do is beat upon myself with a screw. I was told by the governor that newspapers should be sent in. Nothing has come in. I get no news, no visitors. Are they all arrested? Where are they? I'm going to go on hunger strike. You don't want to do that. Look, you do have a visitor, the celebrated Mr. Keir Hardie from England from the Labour Party. This won't do. Who's to stop it? I'm inside, Larkin's inside, O'Brien's an old woman. I've heard the most terrible stories. Your police went through the houses of the poor people of the town and they broke bones and they smashed furniture and they tore the curtains down and the holy pictures from the wall, they put their foot on the floor. The Viceroy, the Parliament will do nothing. It's not their war. Murphy has the police to himself and he will rule. We need common sense in this business. We need someone to take control. We need Labour to take control. If we're all locked up, then from over the water. We have so tricky a turbulence of our own to look after. Coal miners, the railwaymen, the dockers. These last few years, they've had all these strikes, first one and then the other. Each union in its turn set aside and isolated, its demands partly granted and partly evaded, leaving behind every time in its turn the same resentment, till now there's nothing for it but to attempt one great sustainment. Either government, the ruling class, win all or lose all by this stroke we rise or fall. Dublin, in such context, is a squat fly on a plane of glass. Obscures the vision, diverts attention, has nothing to do with anything that goes on at the insides of the room. I wonder that you ought so eternally bent at all costs to keep your union so damned independent. For you are here, out of it, set aside, self-isolated. Your people are beaten, your leadership checkmate. Will you tell me, is there anything we can do for you except talk? The men of our union are still few and therefore weak, and therefore we receive the testing stroke. Your triple British alliance must enlarge itself to 4. Ireland comes in, but upon the level floor of equal status, independent, our own men subordinate to none. Go home and see if this cannot be done. I will do it, and I promise, if I can. Out of jail and on the prowl, loudmouth Larkin sings his song. On the prowl and out of jail does Larkin think that someone's crowned him king. The steam packet blacked, repudiate my song act. Jim Connolly, what the hell's been going on? What word had you for me to do this thing? You throw the whole contrivance out of true. The scabs in Dublin now have firearms thanks to you. All right, your turn has come. On up you Brown, the floor is yours. So do you make your play, my brother. Make sure you win your own applause to the British Trade Union Congress. Convey your fiery cross. But you've got to bear in mind, brother, that the British Trade Union Congress is the foremost and most progressive organisation of its kind in the whole world. We don't take well to insults. Our chaps went over to Dublin in all good faith to help you sort out your mess. There's nothing you can do in return but to kick us in the teeth and be damned to you, and that's that. For God's sake, you stupid Irishman, negotiate with Murphy and leave the rest to us. Don't you think we don't know what we are doing in our own areas? By God, I thank God I'm not responsible for your intelligence. They grunt and shout against us and they yell like wolves and badgers of the dark wild wood. No, rabbits lurking in their safe protective hole. We Irish workers once more must go down to hell. We eat no bread of common sacrifice and brotherhood, but choke our tongues with dust of black betrayal. Dublin defeated now is left alone. Can we continue all upon our own? The red flag of the peoples of the world had no room in it for a single patch of green. World War and the Rising. The movement towards war on the continent makes it impossible this week to write from my newspaper upon any other question. I have no doubt that to most of my readers, Ireland has now ceased to be, in colloquial phraseology, the most important place on the earth. and that our thoughts must be turning bravely to consideration of the position of European socialism in the face of this crisis. The whole working class movement stands committed to war upon war and stands so committed at the very height of its strength and influence. The Irish Worker, the one newspaper for which I'm prepared to speak, will take it as all capitalist hysteria should be took. Within 1 month, all Europe lost its wits. Within 4 years, half of Europe was destroyed. I intend to stay alive. I intend to keep my head, my socialist pen in my hand, my rebel rifle underneath my bed. I let the speak first. It said, ruling by fooling is a great British art with great Irish food. To practice it, the signal for war should have been the signal for rebellion. International war is disaster for the international working class, bringing death upon the battlefield, starvation in the home, slavery in the place of work. I foresee 6 months, 9 months of unprecedented carnage, followed by a patch of peace. With my pamphlets, write my leaflets, write my newspaper, write my book. Pearce and McDermott are joined by Clark, and they say, we keep well away from that lad Connolly, except in a general sense he might be useful for propaganda. Sure, there's no harm in joining voices with him in opposition to recruitment. Connolly, will you please see that a committee is formed to consider replacement leadership for the women workers? Right, so we have no money. Every strike that goes slow that can be supported will be supported. My whole assessment of the industrial situation has been founded upon a fundamental mistake. A year and a half, this war goes on and on. They lay men off and force them to the front. Yet for those whose jobs are safe, the wages rise and rise again, the old president. 6 months of war, did we not say, and then catastrophe of mass starvation. With every strike we call, the state concedes new terms for new negotiations. I have no experience to solve the whole insoluble contradiction. God damn it. The Irish workers have the one sole incentive to internally carry on like a flock of blind eagles, flying higher and higher into the thick of the storm cloud, supporting the war, supporting recruitment, supporting the endless, insupportable casualty lists which are already stretched out from that blood bucket in Flanders as though a huge poisonous dragon was smearing its foul tail over the map of the world. We must look at once for a fresh priority. The Irish worker is prohibited. If he endeavours to print it, I will put him in prison. John Acclaimed in Scotland is himself in some fear that he himself will be suppressed. We must do our best to get the paper out ourselves in secret with another name. Don't you see, all the rules of the game are from this day completely changed. We have been observed. Our overt labour movement at last has found for the first time it must go underground. All noble protest now is put upon the shelf. Our posture is that of Paris in the days of the Commune. Our posture is that of Russia in 1905. In order to remain alive, we must be ready to deceive. Our very friends must plot and plan and tell the truth of it to none. We cannot absolutely trust. Clark approaches Connolly. Mr. Connolly, the old Fenian O'Donovan Rosser, whose body has been brought back from America for burial, the independent units of the National Volunteers and related organisations have a funeral ceremony planned of considerable importance, we believe, to the political and public sentiment in this country. I'm deputated to invite you as a trade unionist and also as the head of the Citizens' Army to take part in the deliberations of the organising committee. This is an invitation for Connolly to take part in the rising. This is the bit where Connolly is alone and questions himself to know whether it is right for him to take part in the rising. Secret signs and traps and tricks produce no revolution but a private plot. You tell the people, for you we have done this. The answer, you, so what? We wanted that. Wolfe Tone and the United Irishmen, 10 years in public, laid their statements down. And yet they left the people with no plan when they were caught and throttled one by one. I have a plan, and I have written it, book after book with my right hand. They may not understand this year or next, may sink the volume of my text in the deepest midden they can find. I know in the end they cannot keep it hidden. It is not mine alone. Thousands have shared this work, by thousands upon thousands. In the end it will be made known. In order to provide for 6 children in a small dark flat, Lily Connolly must take in washing, mending clothes and that. See, the slave of a slave, taking orders from her boss, so his boss may be toppled with the minimum of loss. Very well. I am a man who will hazard his whole life and those of his friends because he knows his wife has got from him alive such little good. Very well. Perhaps I do shed blood. Perhaps I do make war. For no one else but her. What's wrong with that? She is a legion. I cannot count how many of her there are, what they want. I do not know how to explain, but I do know that to do nothing will do nothing to relieve their pain. Mr. Pierce, shall we have a word?